Hello, everybody, and I'm recording this particular message for Christmas Eve. And the inspiration for it came from a column in the Epoch Times written by Jeff Menick titled Chin Up, 4 Steps to Sanity in Crazy Times. And he reports in this article that he emailed a friend when he was feeling particularly down about all the COVID nonsense. And here was what she replied. Evil times, yes, but as a friend told me, we should be happy we live in these times. When else has the meaning of life been so clear? When else has standing up for truth been so important? This is the greatest adventure in a very long time. We'll talk about putting a positive spin on something. This is about as positive as you can get, about as negative an event in life as you can get. But I think it is better to think in a positive way. And I think this is true. When something really disruptive happens, a typical response, once we calm down, is to just kind of rethink things and rethink life. I'm 64 years old, and anybody who's lived as long as I have has had at least a few dark moments in their life. I know I have. And the specifics of what these are, well, you'll just have to wait until I write my tell-all book or somebody else does. And it just really is beside the point. I don't want to really ruminate about those things, but the response that I've always had to when something really cataclysmic happened in my life has always been pretty similar. And the first thing is stop and figure out what happened. Well, I don't have to regurgitate this for you here. Anybody who's still watching me at this point in time knows exactly what happened, and it doesn't really have anything to do with health, right? So I don't have to go there. The next thing is honest assessment, and I think this is something we can all work on. I mean, I think that there's a tendency to catastrophize and immediately go to worst case scenario. I often do that when something like this happens. And then after I make myself miserable for a while ruminating on the worst case scenario, I start to think more clearly about what the possibilities are for an outcome and see that, well, the worst case scenario isn't off the table, but it just isn't as likely to happen as I was giving it in terms of chances. And that talks me off the ledge a little bit. Right now, for example, I don't think the world's coming to an end, and I don't see the criminals who are doing this stuff to us getting their way in the end. I'm not talking about right now, but you know, in the end, I don't think it's going to work out for them. The third thing that I always do is make a list of what's important, really important to me. And your list is going to look different in mine, but in my case, it's my friends and my coworkers and my cat and my health and my work and the things I like to do, like yoga and reading and painting and running and learning new things and all that. And then I ask myself, how much of that has actually been disrupted in a meaningful way? And some of it was for a while, but there's always a way to fix, and there's an end run, and I'll get to that in a minute too. And then figure out what I might have done to contribute to the situation. And you might be thinking, how could we possibly have done anything to bring this on ourselves? And I'm going to come back to that, because actually I do think we did to a certain extent. All right. And then at some point in time, you figure out what to do about it. Well, I'm going to go back to Menick's article. He says that his priest advised him not to become despondent during bad times. And he referenced an exchange from Lord of the Rings. And I've never read the series or watched the movies or whatever, but the Hobbit Frodo says, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened." And the wizard Gandalf replies, "So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us." Well, I sympathize with Frodo and definitely wish that none of this had happened, and you probably do too, but it has. Here we are. So as the wizard says, what are we going to do about it? Well, we can all decide. And I think a big decision, and I think this is so crucial right now, is to decide how to work around the edicts from our rulers. There's good news here, because more and more people are doing this. So if you're not following the rules, you're not alone. And I'll give you some examples that I just smile at when I think about them. Fauci and his cohorts and co-conspirators have been telling people to cancel their holiday celebrations since a month before Thanksgiving. And it clearly hasn't worked out because, for example, travel during Thanksgiving weekend, it was the biggest weekend ever. And I read in our stupid, awful Columbus newspaper this morning, which I only subscribe to so I can see what the empire's been up to, but apparently Christmas is going to be the biggest ever too. They're checking over 1 million people a day in at airports. So this is a big workaround. It's people basically saying, I'm just not complying anymore. I talked to somebody today up in Canada who said that she's never stopped having people over, and neither have the people in her neighborhood. And people are just, they're gradually just returning to their lives. And in COVID Operation, the book that I wrote about this, I actually talked about one of the possible outcomes of this whole thing being, how it ends is people just stop complying. So people are having the gatherings they want to have. Businesses all over the country are refusing to close, and some of them are reopening. And one group even put up a website and said, we're reopening, and sent something to the emperor of their state to say this is what we're doing. So people are, they're fighting back right now, and they're starting to get a spine where all this is concerned. All right. I love the one that went around at Thanksgiving, when people started declaring their Thanksgiving celebrations a funeral, because you could have bigger funerals than Thanksgiving dinners. So if you didn't see this, it was a little cartoon that said, I'm having a funeral. I'll be serving turkey instead of flowers, bring a side dish. People are saying that they're taking off their masks. They're declaring themselves free people, because we are. And I could go on, but you get the idea. There's a lot of resistance out there. And these types of actions actually take a lot of courage. Taking a stand takes courage. Being principled takes courage. Helping others, like businesses, fight for their lives and breaking the rules to do it takes courage. Filing lawsuits takes courage. So perhaps the reason this COVID event is happening, and I do think there's a reason for everything, is because humans are supposed to develop courage. That's what we're supposed to learn from this. It might be the role we played in bringing this on ourselves. If we had demonstrated enough courage, we would have spoken up and made our voices heard a long time ago and pushed back against bad government, intrusive government, the education system, the media, and the medical drug cartels, all right? But we didn't do it. And so maybe that's how we, in essence, brought it on our collective selves. Well, some bad people have been known to say, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Well, good people can say that too. So let's make a commitment to act in the most courageous ways we can every day. Let's each and every one of us commit to having the courage to do whatever is needed to take our countries and our lives back, and then resolve to maintain the courage and the diligence to stand up to perpetrators at the first sign of stepping over the line and infringing on our freedoms and rights. And we've been descending into this for a long time. And I think that a lot of people have felt that, oh, I'm just one person, what can I do? Well, we should have gotten together and done something about it a long time ago. So here we are. So let's learn from it, right? My grandmother used to say, my grandparents used to have a lot of sayings, and one of the things she used to say all the time is, to whom much is given, much is expected, all right? Well, we who are Americans have been given a gift that 1.4 billion people in China and a few 100 million people in other countries would just love to have more than anything. It's called freedom. And our problem is we took it for granted, and we didn't stand up when we should have, when it started to get taken away from us. So right now what we're facing is it's our last chance to take it back, and we better develop the courage to do it. The rest of the world is watching, and I have had so many people tell me, as goes the United States, so goes the rest of the world. So it's on us. Let's not let people down. And I think we should remember that during World War II, I refer often to that time because I'm a World War II buff. It's the section of history, or the events in history I've studied the most. The military definitely made a difference. I mean, the war would not have been won without the US and a lot of other military. But there were an awful lot of people that contributed as well who were not part of the military. They were part of the resistance. They weren't helping the Nazis. They were undermining them at every turn, and they were courageous people who did this. Some of them risked their lives to do it. And so we need to be more like them and find inspiration from them. So the message in COVID, I think the thing that the world, or God, is whoever's trying to tell us, I think it's God, but you might think it's something else. It doesn't really matter. But the message we're supposed to take from this is that it's time for good people to stand up and stand for something. And that something is freedom. So on this Christmas Eve, God bless America. God bless freedom-loving people all over the world. And God bless all of you on this Christmas Eve.